You remember 2008, right? When the financial world just about imploded? Everyone was looking for someone or something to blame. And you know what got a lot of the heat? These super complex mathematical models, the ones that were supposed to keep banks safe. So the big debate became, okay, do we just junk these things and build a new perfect one? But here's a thought. What if looking for a perfect model was the completely wrong way to think about it? Let's dig in.
So, picture it. We're in the aftermath of the 2008 meltdown, and really, there was one question on everyone's mind.
It's a simple question, right? But the answer? Not so much. Was it the bankers, the regulators who were asleep at the wheel, or was the culprit something a little more technical? Something buried deep in the code of modern finance?
Pretty quickly, all eyes turned to the quants, the math geniuses, and their complex models. I'm talking about things like value at risk, or VaR for short. These tools were literally designed to be the financial system's smoke alarms, but, well, the entire house burned to the ground, so something was clearly wrong.
And that, of course, kicked off this massive debate. The main argument was, look, these old models are just broken. They failed us. So the solution seemed pretty obvious, didn't it? Just build a better one, a smarter one. Find a replacement that could stop this from ever happening again. And that really set the stage for a major showdown between two very different ways of thinking about risk.
Okay, so what were these two big ideas? Well, the whole argument really came down to two competing philosophies, two different ways of trying to predict the future. In one corner, you've got the reigning champ, value at risk, VaR. And in the other corner, you have the challenger, a more flexible, some would say smarter, approach called Bayesian inference. It really felt like a choice between the old, trusted industry standard and a totally new way of doing things.
Now, the reason VaR was so popular is that it's simple. Or at least the idea is simple. It tries to take all the insanity of the financial markets and boil it down to just one number. It answers a really important question. How much money could we realistically lose over the next month with, say, 95% certainty? It's clean, it's a single number, and that's exactly why it became the standard.
Bayesian inference, though, it's a totally different beast. It doesn't just look at past data. It's designed to let you plug in human judgment, what it calls priors, which are basically your starting assumptions or beliefs. Then as new information rolls in, the model updates and refines those beliefs. And the people who love this approach said, this is it. This is how you mix human expertise with cold, hard data.
But, that's also its biggest problem. That human judgment part, it's subjective. I mean, whose initial beliefs do you use? Who's the expert? Plus, let's be honest, these models are crazy complicated and take a ton of computing power. And here's the kicker. Just because a model is fancier doesn't mean it's actually better at predicting anything.
And this is the moment where the paper we're looking at takes a hard turn. It argues that this whole fight, VaR versus Bayesian, was a total distraction. It was missing the real problem. The true danger wasn't about which model you picked. It was something deeper, something that applied to all of them.
This quote really nails it. We talk about measuring risk, but you can't, not really. It's not like weighing something on a scale. All we can ever do is estimate risk. And here's the thing. The moment you use a model to make that estimate, you've just created a brand new hidden risk.
And that hidden risk has a name, model risk. It's the danger that comes from the simple fact that you're using a model in the first place. Think of it like this. A model is just a map of reality. It can be a really detailed, fancy map, but it's never the same as the actual, messy, unpredictable territory. And getting those two confused is where the trouble starts.
So there it is. That's the big aha moment. The hunt for that one perfect silver bullet model was a wild goose chase. The real job, the hard job, isn't picking the right model. It's about knowing that every model has flaws and blind spots, and then building a smart process to manage that fact.
Okay, so you might be thinking, is this model risk thing really that big of a deal? Well, the study decided to put it to the test. They ran this really cool experiment with a real portfolio just to see how different the results could be.
So here's the setup. They took one portfolio, an aggressive one designed to get max returns. Then they took 3 different and totally legitimate VaR models, and they asked each model the exact same simple question. Okay, what's the most this thing could lose in 1 month with 95% confidence?
Model number 1, which uses a method called historical simulation, looks at the past and spits out an answer, about $2.8 million. Okay, simple enough. That's our starting point.
Then they run model number 2. This one's a bit different. It assumes the market behaves in a certain statistical way. And its answer? Almost $3.8 million. Whoa! Hold on. That's a full $1 million more than the first one. We're already seeing a huge gap here.
But wait, it gets crazier. They run a third model, an even more sophisticated one that's designed to account for those wild, once-in-a-lifetime market crashes. Its answer? A potential loss of over $5.7 million. I mean, that is more than double what the first model told us.
Let that sink in. The same portfolio, the same data, and we get three completely different answers. That gap, that nearly $3 million difference between the lowest and highest estimate, that is model risk in plain sight. It's not some abstract theory, it's millions of dollars of uncertainty.
So what the heck are you supposed to do? If you can't trust just one model, what's the answer? Well, the paper proposes a solution. Basically, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Use a bunch of different models. Think of them as a committee of experts. Each one has its own perspective, its own biases. Your job is to listen to all of them, see where they agree, and really dig into why they disagree.
All right, so let's boil this all down to the ultimate takeaway. Look, it's so tempting to believe that if we just get enough data, if we build a smart enough algorithm, we can crack the code of the future. But we can't. It's a fantasy. Every single model is just a simplification of reality. And in finance, it's often the messy details the model ignores that come back to bite you hard.
And that really is the final point. The real genius here isn't encoding the perfect model. It's in the wisdom of managing the imperfections of every model. It's about having the humility to know your model is flawed, the diligence to cross-check everything, and a healthy dose of skepticism for any single answer. That's way more valuable than chasing some mythical mathematical crystal ball.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We use models for everything these days, finance, the weather, you name it. But is the model you're using a window that helps you see the future more clearly? Or is it just a mirror reflecting back your own assumptions and biases? Because getting that answer right, that could be the difference between navigating a storm and sailing right into it.